Hello everyone and welcome back to Raquel Teaches Code. In today's lesson, I'm going to be teaching you how to insert an image into a web page using HTML. So let's get started. All right, so we are back to using the code editor. And what we're doing is we're going to be using the same file that we created in the previous lessons. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be inserting a new tag within the opening and closing body tags to insert the image on the page. So I'm just going to click in here at the end of the paragraph tag or the closing paragraph tag, and I'm just going to hit enter to go to a new line. And in here I'm going to start. So I'm going to start with the opening bracket, and the tag for inserting an image is just IMG. Now, one thing to know about the image tag is that it has two parts. So you have to insert this image tag itself, and then you also have to indicate where the image is coming from. And so this is where you start to use the source attribute of the image tag. So what you're going to do is you're going to type src for source equals sign, and then the location of the image is going to go in between the set of quotation marks. So one thing to keep in mind is that you need to know where your image is located. So in this example, I'm going to be using an image that I downloaded from the internet, but the image may very well also be at a location on another website. So I'm going to show you this example, then explain how you would insert images that are located in a different way. So first, let's start with an image that is in the same folder that you're working in with your HTML file. As you can see here in Visual Studio Code, here on the left-hand side is like the File Explorer section, and you can see the image that I've already downloaded locally here, right? It's called spaghetti carbonara because I like food, and this is one of my favorite things, and so I almost always am going to be inserting images of food when it comes to these lessons, so just know that going in. But this is the name of the image I'm going to be inserting, spaghetti carbonara, and because it is in the same folder as the HTML file, I don't need to really give any other indication for the location other than the name of the file. So I'm going to go ahead and start typing the name of the file, spaghetti carbonara. Now you'll notice that with Visual Studio Code and many other modern code editors, it will start to give you suggestions of the name of the file that you want to insert into the source attribute of this image tag. Okay, and so because it realizes that image tag is for inserting images, it's going to suggest an image file to start with. And in this case, it's correct, right? It's suggesting spaghetti-carbonara.jpg. A JPEG file is an image file. So I can go ahead and click on that to insert that in between the quotation marks. You could just as easily go ahead and type it if you like to type. It's up to you. I prefer not to type too much. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on that name of that image file. And then I still need to close this tag with the closing bracket. So one thing you should notice right away is that the image element or tag doesn't have a closing element the way that the paragraph tag does or even the heading tag does, right? This is what's considered like a self-closing tag. So you don't need like a closing tag with the slash in front of it. As long as you enter the source and you put that closing bracket on there, you're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and save this file after making this change, and we're going to view this page now in the web browser to see what it looks like. All right. And so let's go ahead and open that file. I'm using Firefox to view it. Going to open the file. And you'll notice right away that you don't see the image right away, but you start to see the little gray part. I'm not sure if you guys can see that on YouTube land, but this is because the image is here. It's just, look, guess what it is? When I scroll down, you see that it's huge, right? It looks really delicious as well, but it's huge. And so what does that mean? That means that, yeah, it's displaying the image, but maybe I want to size it correctly so that it's actually viewable to anybody looking at this page. And so while we haven't gotten to formatting and CSS yet, today you're going to get a small bonus on how to format an image, at least size it correctly so you can make sure it's viewable on the page. So let's go back to the code editor. And what we're going to do is add another attribute to the image tag. And this one is called the width attribute, right? So if I go ahead and indicate width, I can set a size to the image. And so in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a relative size, meaning compared to the size of the page that it's on. And I'm just going to set it as a percentage. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and set it to a 25% width, meaning it's going to be a 25% the width of the page. I'm going to save that change, and then I'm going to go back to the browser and refresh that to see what that looks like at 25% of its width versus its original size. Let's refresh and then look. So when I set that image to 25% or to display at 25% of its size, it gets sized down or scaled down to a reasonable size that you can see on the page. Okay, so that is how you insert an image that is in the same folder as the HTML file you're working with. But what if the file that you want to insert is not in the local folder? Let's go back here to the code editor. You notice I pointed out earlier about the spaghetti carbonara page, but there's also another folder in here, a subfolder if you'll call it that. I happen to call it folder John, right? And then if I open up that folder, I see there's another image in here. So how would I display this image that's in the subfolder that I'm working in? Okay, that can be done. So let's go ahead and insert another image underneath the spaghetti carbonara, because you know, tiramisu goes with spaghetti carbonara, you know. If you know Italian food, you know what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and insert, oops, that's not the right bracket. Let's go ahead and insert this image tag. And so now, how would I indicate that? So what you want to do is you want to indicate the name of the folder, right? And oops. So you want to start with the slash to indicate that you're going to start with the name of a folder for the location of the image. You notice I had that little typo at first. And you'll notice that, again, Visual Studio Code provides a suggestion for the name of a folder, Folder John, which is the folder name I have over here. So if I click on Folder John, then look, it also displays the name of the image. And I'll click on that again. So I happen to click, you know, using the features of Visual Studio Code, and it inserted it in the correct format for me on this page, HTML. But if I didn't have that, I need to understand the correct format to indicate the correct location for the HTML, right? So understand that when you are trying to display an image that is not in the same folder that you're working in, you want to start with a slash, indicate the folder name, and then indicate the file name. If the file is buried within another folder, you're going to have to put all the folder names, in other words, to make sure that you're following the correct location step by step, and then it should always end with the actual name of the file. So what I'm going to do here is also, I'm going to give it a width, because I'm not sure how big this image really is, because I did not check it before downloading it, but I'm going to give it the same width as the previous image just to see what it looks like. And if it doesn't look right, we can always come back and change it. So I'm going to go ahead and make the save to this file. Let's go back to the browser window and let's refresh. And what should happen is that a picture of the tiramisu should be displayed underneath the spaghetti carbonara. So let's see. Let's refresh. And it did not. It's displaying an error here. So let's see. Let's go back and see what I did wrong. And it looks like it displayed it next door. So maybe I want to go ahead and put that on a new line using the paragraph element. There's another way to do that, but we'll get to that in another lesson. Let's put this on a separate line of paragraph. Sometimes it'll auto insert things, so we don't want to do that. This should work. I'm not sure why. Let's try to refresh it one more time. I'll figure this out while you're watching me flounder. Okay, it did put on a new line, but it's still not displaying it. Why? Did I indicate the location wrong? Let's see, maybe I don't need the slash. Let's go back here. That's what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so error on my part, but here you go. Now you know that when you want to indicate it, you don't need the beginning slash to indicate the name of the folder. You want to start with the name of the folder, then use a slash to separate the levels of where the file might be located. So once again, you have an image that's located in the same location where the HTML file is, and one that's located in a different folder. And just another quick extra bonus for this lesson. The reason why I had to put it on a separate line is because the image element is an inline element, which is something you'll learn about later. But essentially what that means is inline elements will always line up next to each other instead of underneath each other stacking. The kind of elements that stack underneath each other are called block level elements. So as you can see, paragraphs are one of the block level elements. Images are one of the inline level elements. All right. So just, a little something to keep in mind for one of the future lessons. Okay. So there you have it. Now you know how to insert an image using HTML, both from a local location and from a location that's not in the same folder that you're working in. I hope that you found this helpful. If so, please go ahead and click the like button and go ahead and share this with anyone who you think might find this helpful as well. Thanks for checking in and have a great day. Take care.